So you want to create a cool background and starter screen, splash screen for your players when you're playing in Foundry, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Let's go. So as you can see, I've got Foundry open here. The first thing you're going to need to do is do a little background based on your game and everything. Find some artwork, figure out a font that you want to use. You know, obviously there's some creative stuff that you need to do here. But I'm not going to get really into how to do that other than a couple things that I do to help the layout a little bit. But I'm not going to show you how to use Photoshop. That's way beyond the point of what I'm doing here. So the first thing we want to do is we need to create a world. So we're going to create a world. I'm going to base this on Barbarians of the Ruined Earth because I've already sort of built it. So it'll give us a little bit of a jump. So Barbarians of the Ruined Earth. Oh, fat fingers. I've already got one named this. So I'm also going to base it off the Black Hack 2. This system is not available off the Foundry website or through the Foundry interface. But I will include a link to it for those playing the Black Hack because the Barbarians of the Ruined Earth is built off of the Black Hack. All right, so now we're going to save this. Now we'll launch the world, and what we want to do is open our snipping tool. I've already done this, but let's do this as if I hadn't already done it. So go down to your search, type snipping, open up your snipping tool. Make sure your mode is set to window snip, and then just click your Foundry window. Now you've got it. Now hit copy. I'll go over to Photoshop. And what we'll do here is I'll close this, and we will go here, go new. And because it's on my clipboard, I'll just have the clipboard selected. That way it's the exact sizes. Create. Boom. So now what I do is I use this layer as sort of a guide for what I'm going to create. So I will set the opacity. Oh, I don't want that. Grab this layer and I'll set the opacity down a little bit. Just enough to see through. So now I can sort of see where this screen is going to be over the artwork. So now we'll go grab our picture here. So this is the original picture that I worked with. I'm not sure who the artist is, but this is what we ended up with. So actually, let's just see if this just works. See if we can just put this in here. That looks a little cooler. All right, so now we'll throw this up. See, and now we're looking good. So let's turn this off. We don't need to see that layer anymore. I'm happy with the way that looks for now. We'll save it. Boom, that's saved. Now we'll go back over to Foundry. So now we're in our game. We're going to go back out though, and we're going to edit the world, and we're going to select our background image. Update the world, and now we'll launch it, and boom, now we got a nice cool looking background for when the players log in. They'll see this, and then the real meat and potatoes of it, when you join the game, we'll set this up. So the first things you need here are you're going to need to install some modules. So in order to do that, we've got to go back out to the setup, and we're going to go to add-on modules, and we're going to install some modules. The first package you need is called FX Master. I already have these installed, but you would type these in and find them and install them. So the first one is FX Master. You also need one called Lock View. Lock View. You're going to want PDF Foundry. This is if you have the rules. If you have the rules in PDF format, you're going to want to use this so that you can give your players access and a way to click and open the handbook or any other PDFs that you want to give them access to. And the other one that you're going to want, so you want PD Foundry. And the other one that you want, the last one, is Trigger Happy. So you're going to need that one. And with these tools, you'll be able to create pretty cool, like game, like almost like a starting screen for a video game, but for your Foundry campaign. So I've already got those installed. So let's go back to our game worlds and log in here. So I'll log in as the game master. Unpause the game. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to manage the modules. We're going to turn on FX Master. We're going to turn on Lock View. We're going to turn on PDF Foundry. We're going to turn on Trigger Happy and any other ones that you need to turn on, obviously. Save the module settings. So now the first thing we need to do, configure the settings, go to the module settings, lock view. I might be doing that out of order. So we need to create a scene. I always call it welcome to and whatever, but I mean, name it whatever you want. Welcome to Ruined Earth. So that's the name of our scene. Okay, now we're going to take away the token vision, take away the fog exploration. We're to not have a grid. We should probably go in order. Yeah, so give navigation a name. Then we're going to pick our background image. So similarly, for the background image, what I do is just like I did for the splash screen, is I take a shot of, let me save this real quick. I take a shot of this screen the same way I did that I just showed you, put it in Photoshop, and then I start building around it. As you can see, right there, I started with this, and then that way I knew where to position everything. So you do the same thing there. So now let's go back to the configure settings. PDF Foundry, we don't have to do anything with. Trigger Happy, we don't have to do anything. And this, I don't believe we need to do anything with either. We've enabled FX Masters. We're all FX Master. We're all done there. Next, we go to our scenes. Open the scene up that we just created. Give it a name, give it navigation, select the background image. So we're going to do here, I have them in my folder assets, background, and BOTRE. I select that. I always make my background color black. It doesn't really matter, I don't think. We do not want a grid, so gridless. We do not want token vision. We do not want fog exploration. We will want an audio playlist, which we'll set up in a little bit. We want to lock the pan. We want to lock the zoom. And I believe that's everything. To the screen, you already, oh, wait. Poops. Make sure I've got all that in there. Auto scale, we want to be horizontal fit. And now I think we're all done. Of course, it didn't save our file path because we closed it like an idiot. All right, so you notice that now I can still do all this stuff, and I'm not positive if that is because yeah, so what I did there was I went to configuration settings, went to user configuration, and checked both of these, and now it's applied to my screen. So now I have my screen. So the next thing we want to do is we want to start linking everything up. So first thing we're going to need to do is create a player. So let's create an actor. Player one, he's a character. He sure is. Let's give him a picture so we don't have to look at the little mystery man here. No, I don't want to do that. My tokens, nope. And player one will just be adventurer male. Okay, boom, there he is. Okay, because in order for this to work, some of these links won't work if you're the GM and you don't have a token that has a journal. You don't have a token that has a character sheet. So the other thing we need to do is we need to create the rules. So let's pull the rules in. So we're going to create a PDF. So you're going to have a button down here called Create PDF. We're going to call this Handbook. And we need to put the handbook in there. Let me do that real quick because it has to be in the path of Foundry. So let me just do that real quick. Okay, so let's go up. We can't go up. Let's do this again. Browse, assets. I just created this folder, rules PDFs, Barbarians of the Ruined Earth. I'll select that and select the file. Test the settings, enable caching. That'll help the players remotely to get it. Test the settings. There we go. Beautiful. The next thing we need to do is we need to create a folder in our journals. This is us hooking up Trigger Happy. We're going to create a folder called Trigger Happy. Then we're going to create inside here, I'm going to create one called Triggers. I'm going to create a journal entry called Triggers. And this is where we're going to start doing stuff. Now, the other thing that I do is I create a folder under our actors called Triggers. And this is where I put, because you need to have tokens to set up here. To make these clickable, you need to have tokens. Make sure Trigger Happy is turned on. So the first thing we're going to have a trigger called rules. Rules trigger. Set it to a creature. None of this stuff matters. Let's change him to a transparent. So another thing you're going to want to do is create a transparent token, essentially just like 100 by 100 square transparent PNG. I'm sure you guys probably already have that. I did not. I had to create one. We'll just make them friendly. I always make them friendly just in case. And update the token. Okay, so to open the PDF, we have to do a macro. So you're going to want to come down here, click the little folder, create a new macro, call it Open Handbook, create new, because we need this to, unfortunately, Trigger Happy doesn't function with the PDF Foundry. So we need to create a macro because the macro can. In order to do this, we need to type out the following code. It is UI dot capital PDF Foundry, PD Foundry dot open PDF by code. And we need to put our handbook name in here. So it's just handbook. One semicolon, execute the macro. There we go. We've got it. It now opens that. So that step is done. Save the macro. What I do is I like to give this the little book icon. So now That's in there. As long as that's in there, it should work. So now let's go back to our trigger happy, to our triggers. And now we're going to create our triggers to open the rules. All right, so now we have to hook up trigger happy. So trigger happy is going to make, when we click this, it's going to execute the macro, which is going to open the PDF. So now what we need to do is go to trigger happy. First, we need to get the name of this. So double click this because we're going to need this first. Then go to your journal entries, go to trigger happy, go to triggers, and we're going to start typing. So the first thing is @token, square bracket, the name of our trigger, the rules trigger, and square bracket. Then we're going to say @trigger, square bracket, click, and square bracket. And now we need our macro, which we can just open the macros and just drag it in here. And it'll do what it needs to do. Save it, close it, click it. And there we go. So that works. Beautiful. I have a great time editing how many times I had to re-walk over that. That's going to be fun. All right, so next we're going to have journals for the players. So what I like to do for the journals for the players is I like to create a folder called player journals and make it whatever color you want. Let's keep it on theme here. And then you're going to want to create a trigger or a journal for the name of the character. So this is player 1. Well, we actually need a player. So let's create an additional user. Call this player 1. Actually, we'll call him let's just call him player 1. Player 1, we've already got stuff made. Not M layer 1, P layer 1. Save and return. Okay, now we've got our player. And we have to assign them to the owner. Okay, now we got to create the journal. So now we need another trigger, and this will be journal trigger. So we're going to create it. I always set them to creatures. Journal trigger. Again, set it to be a transparent PNG. We also want this to be, let's go 2.5. Oh my goodness. 0.5. Position, vision, resource. Set it to friendly. Update the token. And now we can pull this out. Put it over our journal. Now we have to create another macro because the macro gives us access to the API, and the API can then say, I need the journal for the character that's clicking me, which we can't do with trigger happy. So we're going to create another macro. So open this up, create a macro. Open my journal script, create a new macro. And what this is it's journal entry dot collection dot get name and then character name, because this is coming from the API, and it tells it to render the journal. So we'll save this macro for now. And we're going to go over to trigger happy. And we're going to add this next command. And this one, oh, we need the name of, we need to make sure we have this journal trigger. So now we go on the next line down, at token, square bracket, journal trigger, and square bracket, at trigger, square bracket, click, and square bracket. And then we need our macro. Open my journal. Save the entry. Close. Now this is not going to work when I click it because I'm the GM and I don't have a character. However, the player logs in, they will be able to do it. So let's do that real quick. Let me open up a browser. And he's going to select my character, save the configuration. Oh, did I not create the journal? I did create the journal, but I didn't assign it to my player. So we need to do that. I didn't create the journal. Yeah, there needs to be a journal in here called player 1. And they need to have the permissions for it. Owner, save. So yeah, forgotten step. Create a journal. Otherwise they can't open their journal. And then give them permission to it. So now if I go back. Oop. And now I have my journal. There. So now I can open my journal. The player can open the rules. Oh, and that's the other thing we didn't do. See how this is the little red border around it? Right click this and make it so it's not visible. Now your player can't see it, but they can still click it. Boom. All right, so next, let's open up the character sheet. So let's do it again. Let's create a trigger, an actor token trigger. So trigger. Let's call this sheet trigger. Keep it easy. Change it to creature. It doesn't have to be creature, guys. It just needs to be a token. I personally like to change it to creature. Prototype token. We're going to need to copy this anyway, so I'll do it now. This will make this 2.5. Now let's go 3 and 0.5. Update the token. Make sure to change this once again to the transparent token. Now let's pull out our sheet trigger over top of the character here. Now we are going to create another macro that opens the sheet because, again, we need the API. So we're going to create this macro here, create a macro, call it open character sheet. And in this macro, we are going to say game.actors.get name, and capitalization matters here. So get capital name, parentheses, character dot name, and parentheses sheet dot render, parentheses true, and parentheses semicolon. So it's get actors, get name, character name, sheet, render true. Save, close. Yeah, we've already done that. So again, you need to make sure player 1 is the owner of the token. So now let's, now that we've got our character out here, let's right click and turn off the visibility so the players won't see the red thing again. Let's go over to the journal. Let's open up the trigger. And let's create our trigger. So this time we're going to say at token square bracket sheet trigger and square bracket at trigger. Click. And then we're going to pull out our macro. Sounds dirty. Hey, baby, let me pull out my macro. open the character sheet, save the entry, close, close. Again, this is another one that won't work for you because you don't have a token. So let's go back over to our player screen. Click journal, not journal, character. And didn't work. Sheet trigger. Ah, I typoed. Happens to the best of us. Click, save. And there we go. Now we have our character sheet. Working typos will get you every time, man. Always check what you wrote. And now that works. And I don't have a world map, but you would do the same thing for this and then have it open the next scene, which I guess I could do that in another video. So the other thing that we want to do is let's import some sounds and make these. Everybody likes to hear stuff when they click stuff. Let them know that they're doing it. So we're gonna implement a little click and a little sound when these open and close. So in order to do that, we are going to need to create a playlist. Oh, I'm as the player. Haha. We have to go over here, create a playlist. I call mine UI sounds. That really looks like a lowercase I to me. Create the playlist. And now I'm going to add some sounds. This one will be click effects. And I go into my assets. I keep most of my stuff under assets, sounds, UI, click effects. Unfortunately, I can't get hover to work yet. But click effects wave, select. This is not a large streaming file. We don't need it to repeat, and the sound volume is fine. Let's do that. And let's add the page flipping sound, which I call flip effects. And that is in the UI as well. Flip effects, select, update the track, and then we have these sounds. And all right, so now we're going to make it whenever these get clicked, we're going to execute a sound. So this is another macro that we're going to create. Let's create another macro. UI sound effects. It's a script again. And this is a little bit more complicated, as we need this to be an asynchronous function because we're going to play two sounds. The reason we're doing this is because I want to offset the sound of the page flipping a little bit after the click sound goes off, so that it sort of syncs up with when the window actually opens. So it'll first play the click, and then you'll hear the page flip sound as the window opens. Execute the macro. We can hear the sound. Save the macro. So now all we need to do on each of these buttons that we've just created, we go back into our journal, triggers, and we're just going to pull this macro to the end of that. Just drag it right in line with everything else. I'm just going to copy and paste it now. Oh, that's too much. I just want to copy this. I'm going to paste it at the end of each of these. Hit save. And now when I click these, and now when I click them, nothing works. Why? Oh, because that absolutely went funky. I don't know why it does that sometimes. It moves stuff around when you save it. See, like now I've got my sound effects, but now these don't. because for some reason, trigger click macro. So this is the macro that's going to play the sound effect. Save. Yeah, I don't know why it screws it up sometimes. Sometimes you got to go in. If it doesn't work, go in and look. And chances are when you saved the journal entry, it moved some of the @ symbols around. It's weird, but I don't know why it does that. And now we have the sound. And our player gets it when he opens his stuff. And that's that. And it's starting to get a little long in the tooth. So I'm going to stop it here. I think we're at about 30 minutes. Thanks for joining me. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, leave it a like and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. In the next video, which I'm planning on doing, is we will add some animation to this, and I'll show you how to add the background music to start instantly when your players join the session, in case you don't know how to do that already. This is Ancient Grim. Enjoy some grim dark fantasy, and I hope to see you again next time.